Respected sir, hope you are fine and you was telling about your uh, experience in foreign country and you have written your MPhil thesis as well. I am very inquisitive and I am very interested to know about research, especially when somebody meets me and he is related to linguistic and literature. So you will be telling about your research, you will be telling your objective of research and what you have found out from your research. Please tell us in brief manner. Don't go to details, just tell extract or you can say abstract of your thesis and what you have achieved from your research.
So actually, the topic I chose for my research in my MPhil dissertation was quite close to my heart. So
You can take it in your hand as well, don't worry.
once you make a survey of your institution, like I have done this this particular research in my own district, Chakwals, where there are three layers of institution. Where once we do the survey, like public sector institutes are there, where the medium of instruction is Urdu, and then obviously the private sector where they are applying the fluent technique, like that is the technique of code switching. Sometimes they are using the target language and switching back to the first language, Urdu and English, you may say that. And then there are only a 5% institutes like the city school system, the Beacon House and the Myers and rest of the Chakwal Grammar School and Fauji Foundation, where they are actually having this facility for their students to interact with each other in the target language. So I have chosen this topic because why it's so difficult for English language teachers to communicate in the target language. Once we are teaching in a school settings or even at college level or university, we have seen that we are struggling with that, and we are most of the time we are complaining that our students are not at ease when it comes to communication in the target language. They have some kind of anxiety and obviously mental blockage that they are facing.
Exactly.
So keeping in mind, I have gone through a number of theories, and in that perspective, Dr. Stephen Krashen's theory actually that appealed me a lot. Like having five hypotheses, like the learning acquisition distinction was there. And first of all, I have gone through this one and it appealed me a lot. Like our system is
So
mostly,
how do you define learning? So if explain
yes,
in two sentences.
yes, the learning is a conscious process. Let's say once you are in the classroom setting and you are taking attending a lecture, and at that time you are consciously trying to learn those skills and those ideas in the class as an adult. But when it comes to the acquisition, so once you listen speaking monologue, like a lecture delivered by your teacher, that you are at the receiving end, and in lecture method the teacher is continuously delivering a lecture for a period of 35 to 40 minutes by discussing different ideas. So this is how you are also acquiring subconsciously, the way ma'am has mentioned today in today's class, that subconscious is a more accurate approach as compared to the conscious approach. So I mean, you are acquiring at the same time, but you don't, perhaps you are thinking it's just going above our head. That structure is quite complicated. So this is the miracle of acquisition. Here I would like to quote an example of a newly born baby. Like if a baby is born to a Punjabi family, so you are going to hand it over to an English family. So when you bring that baby back after a period of 2.5 years, you are seeing that he has acquired the structure of English like a native speaker. How is it possible? Because round the clock, the child is listening the target language and he is acquiring. So I mean, it is the miracle of acquisition. And Dr. Krashen says that you are supposed to provide the comprehensible input hypothesis. That is their the mean comprehensible input here is the meaningful interaction in the target language. You need to stick to the target language, and that interaction is must be understandable and comprehensible, and it is in a easy
Okay,
structure.
according to Krashen theory, you discussed about Krashen theory, but I have learned from Krashen theory. Krashen theory says that learning is subconscious. Are you agreed with it?
No, learning is a conscious process, but acquisition is a subconscious process. Like once you see we are acquiring the baby, you don't know the
It means language. We learn language subconsciously.
obviously we are acquiring languages, and languages subconsciously. Once you say Noam Chomsky's perspective is there, that is from the mentalist school of thought in natism. Here Chomsky said there is an abstract device that exists in the brain of a baby.
Which is called lead.
Yes, lead, that exists for a period of 7 years. So within that critical period hypothesis, a baby can acquire any language of the world. So that was the one perspective. But here Krashen perspective is that you even the adults have this possibility to acquire the language. There is no critical period hypothesis like period for that. You may acquire at any stage of your life, provided that you are having exposure to the target language and that is appropriate. That means that interaction is meaningful. So mean you are supposed to provide comprehensible input. So after I have developed a qualitative questionnaire comprising 40 open-ended questions. I have taken feedback initially, 25 teachers, those who were serving in public sector, private sector, and elite school system. So it was 10-10-5 ratio, and then I have delimited and cut short the data sampling from 25 to 5 teachers only. It has become a collective case study of 5 teachers, those who were willing to cooperate genuinely in that research. So I
how
have
did you reduce? First, you take 25 teachers, and then you reduce. How
the technique I have
very
applied
difficult.
in methodology. Actually, I have applied the triangulation technique that is quite popular. Like, it was based on data gathering through qualitative questionnaire feedback from the participants of the research, and it was also you were conducting at the same time the oral interview of those teachers, those who were actually practicing GTM and direct method of teaching in different institutions. And then the third was the observation. That means you were directly observing them while they were
While they're
performing in the
teaching.
performing in their in the four walls of classrooms. So it has become a, you have gathered data from qualitative
Was
questionnaire
it a
from,
case study? Was
yes,
it case study?
yeah, it has become a case study later on. Like, if you are considering the data only from the 5 teachers, 2 from public, 2 from private, and 1 from the elite school system,
Okay.
so they were actually willing to cooperate with you in that study, because once you distribute that questionnaire to the participant, most of the people they don't have time, they're not supposed to give you the
You
feedback.
took
So
only 5 teachers, and they cooperated with you, and
no,
ultimately you have conducted case
and
study.
no, initially it was
25.
consisted of 25 teachers.
Yes.
I have gathered data from the written feedback in the form of that qualitative questionnaires. So then, out of those 25, I have only selected 5.
Five.
It mean
Okay.
cut short, and it has become a
Was
longitudinal
it
case study.
random sampling?
Yes, it was initially it was from the different institution. I have categorized into 3 layers, like the public sector,
Yes.
the private sector, and then the elite school system, where they were actually giving exposure in the target
And what
language.
were your main questions you were going to address that
So
time?
these questions are particularly related to the grammar translation method of teaching,
Yes.
like related to the translation method and grammatical intricacies. And here we are also supposed to discuss the 2 prescriptive and descriptive approaches of teaching grammar.
Yes.
Like, the monitor hypothesis is also there. So once you are actually in your academic career, you are providing them the input.
Yeah.
So if it is in the first language, so gradually the children are developing their monitor. So this is when, once they receive the input, that they process that information and start producing it. So if Dr. Krishna here says that if the input is faulty, that is in the first language, how can you expect that they will start producing in the target language? It is a quite scientific approach. Once we say the linguistics, that is a scientific study of language.
Exactly.
So whatsoever you are giving as an input, obviously the output is totally relying on that,
According to this.
according to this one. So that's why this questions theory appealed me a lot, that there is something sensible in that. Obviously it's going to contribute, and it's going to offer a solution for that, because it's quite easy to identify the problem and to raise a finger on that, or so and so problem of communication exists in our educational institutions, but you are supposed to offer a remedy. So in that perspective, I have reached at this conclusion, but that was the finding of my study. Our system is largely based on learning. When it comes to language, like there are 4 areas: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So obviously we are emphasizing more on reading and writing, but when it comes to listening and speaking, these 2 areas are largely ignored, because we don't have the AV aids, audiovisual facilities and these gadgets in each and every institution. And as a developing countries, we can't even afford that, to provide these projectors and rest of the sporting materials, audiovisual aids in each and every classroom.
Yes.
So that's they have only one thing, that is the input provided by the teacher.
Yes.
So in that perspective, they must be provided with a professional training, so that they are competent enough, they have a strong grip on that subject, so that they
What
can.
have you concluded?
So
Just tell me what is your conclusion.
the conclusion was that we need to switch our system of education from learning onto acquisition approach. For
Very
that we are supposed to provide professional training to our teachers,
Yes.
because problem lies with the teachers, not with the students. I'm not going to criticize the teacher here, because English language teachers, that once they are having master degree or even MPhil or doctoral degrees in their relevant field, so they are supposed to provide professional training to the teacher in other disciplines, because English has become a lingua franca, language of science and technology, and you can't deny its significance and importance. Like, that language is a course that actually leads you towards the treasure of knowledge. And if you got stuck within that, on the pathway, on the course, and you are not supposed to reach at your destination. So that was the actually topic that was quite close to my heart, and still I'm pursuing in my doctoral dissertation the same. I'm working on comprehensible input. Inshallah, I will try my level best to actually how to reduce comprehensible input from different genres of literature, like how the poetry can contribute in that perspective to give you the comprehensible input for the process of acquisition to materialize. And when it comes to the approach of plays and dramas and novels, so you may actually conduct a thorough study and then select the few renowned works in that particular area for the process of evaluation. So I'm going to now work on the comprehensible
Very
input.
good.
That is.
Ajay sir, you have raised one question. It is very valuable. It's really very it's very crucial. Your question was that we don't have material, we don't have resources to conduct research. For example, I want to conduct research in cognitive neuroscience. So it's my topic and I would like to work in it. So for that, we need machineries like MRIs, and we need PET. We need another machine name is functional MRI. So these